Anarchy 12. Anarchy 12 has pretty much been one of the most consistent antagonists since the prequels. And the prequels are in the finale of last season. Anarchy proposed his vision for Haven City, proposing his vision and what he saw the future of Haven to be, which was pretty much a survival of the fittest environment, where everyone defends themselves. Anarchy despises heroes. He feels like it makes people weak. You know, your evolution is your evolution. You should learn to survive with your evolution, or you're weak, because if you have someone else defending you, you're never going to evolve the way you were supposed to. And so he promotes this world where it's kind of bad. It's a bad thing if you are defending people. And that's what a lot of the androids are out there. They're enforcing. If you're trying to save someone, that is an issue. You need to let that person get out of that situation themselves. And out of all of this, there will be order, a natural order, a hierarchy of G-types, but you'll have your alpha G-types, and then you're just your normal G-types who just are not at the top of the food chain. So he has these androids out there patrolling, and he created a set of androids called the Peacekeepers, and these are very, very powerful androids that he created. And we'll get more into them, but that has pretty much been how he has maintained control. In the previous season, the instigator put in, after wiping everything out, he was programming the next cycle. And remember, the instigator is creating G-types for the Green Gods, who are also, we find out, are just some alien species with advanced knowledge, giving him the resources to do what he's doing. And they're called the Uncount. And they have pretty much recruited or hired the instigator to create G-types, or more so super mutants to them, that they could use as sell off. Because what they do is, whatever G-types got selected from the tank, they would pretty much become a zombie, a husk. They would have, they would be completely under the control of whoever was controlling them, and then sell them to people who they would use for reasons we don't know yet. It's a big world outside of your planet, which is inside of a tank. So whatever G-types would come of that would be then sold off. But anyway, the instigator was told by the Green Gods to focus his efforts more on Anarchy this coming cycle. Stop fucking around with R-Type X and Libra. It failed. Let's take a look at Anarchy. And the instigator was like, whatever. He's going to continue to work on R-Type and other G-types like he has been. Secret. He's done, the Green Gods, the Uncount, provided the instigator, the tank. The tank itself is Uncount technology, advanced alien technology. The same shit that Anarchy's suit utilizes. And what it is it is able to contain planets. In this case, a planet, which is your planet. Inside of this kind of, think of like the Halo rings, but it surrounds, it surrounds the planet. Think of a Dyson sphere. Surrounds the planet, sustains it. It's like a digital holographic, it's a digital organic planet. Since they are all about chaos and that's what he used to affect your survival rate, and how you survive and how you evolve is by tampering with the settings of what you're going to be faced with, the adversities you'll be faced with. This affects how you evolve. And in the previous cycle of last season, it was all about chaos. It was all about chaos, and how you would survive amongst chaos. That's why a lot of the events that the instigator programmed were things that caused disarray. Grinfall, Gamma Zombies, Gamma Fiend. So Anarchy 12 has been dominating with his tech, and he created some very powerful androids. He is probably he might be the second strongest character in the game currently. Let me check. He's always been right behind R-Type X. So currently, R-Type X, when he took the mission, he was Anarchy was incredible rank. Wow. So Anarchy's pretty powerful. And that reflects in his menacing presence. You know, the androids. And there's levels to the androids. There's levels to it. And just for power scaling, when a G-type takes out an android, and just for power scaling, and to put things in perspective, your characters are G-types. Think about, all right, so a G-type is, everyone's a G-type, but you're actually, now that you are evolving, going from G-type zeros, which is just a G-type, into a G-type 1. A G-type 1 is a G-type when their mutations have activated. So if you're a dormant, you're a G-type. You're still a G-type when you evolve and your powers awaken. You're just considered a G-type 1. So power scaling in regards to the androids. And these androids are powerful, they're strong, they're super speed, strength, reflexes, typical androids. And these are soldiers. He has foot soldiers that go out and do his, light work. But, to a normal person, like an android is terrifying. An android can just rip your face off. That kind of strength. So just kind of put things in perspective of when these androids are getting bodied out here, because your characters are above average to everyone. Amongst yourselves, you are your ranks. So, for example, like Anarchy 12 was incredible rank during this. A lot of your characters are average, which is like 5 below that. So he could kill you if you were on the end of his wrath. So that's why a character like him is able to dominate for so long. He's creating androids that's probably twice as strong as a lot of your characters. So he's able to pretty much lock down Haven and the gate. With Tempest's overall vision of what's going to happen, he has to pick his fights. You don't want to just be losing G-types because of Anarchy. When your whole goal is to amass good G-types to battle the Servi Dei and the Emerald Prophecy. He had to be careful. He had to kind of stay clear of Anarchy, which is probably another reason why Tempest is so stressed. The future is a big burden, knowing the future at least. Anarchy knew he was going to be rewarded with this kind of power. I mean, he didn't know the specifics, but he knew he would be rewarded with power because him and the Instigator were working together in the last cycle. And one of what part of the deal was he would help him achieve what he needed to achieve, which was create chaos. Advocate, that G-type was created by the Instigator just to be an agent of chaos and create separation and chaos with all the political stuff. The entire point was to create chaos, and Anarchy was be able to assist with the chaos mist that he had engineered. And the reward for that was that he would get power. When really the Instigator probably knew that the Green Gods were going to start focusing their efforts, or wanting him to focus their efforts on Anarchy 12. Technically, game-wise, Anarchy 12 is far ahead from the Instigator, despite their circumstances. Anarchy 12 called out a bunch of G-types who also believe in being an alpha G-type and survival of the fittest. And anyone who felt they were the best of the best, he asked them to come to Sector 12, and they all came to Sector 12. So we learned that he's actually imprisoned these G-types and has reversed engineered a lot of their powers with his a lot of their mutations. And that's what happened over, the time skip. That was a result of what he was trying to do in the last episode. But he's also captured the Instigator, who was forced out of his ship. He was forced out of his ship where he was operating the whole entire tank. They were attacked by space pirates who came from far beyond. And that's where we learned that the Instigator and his team were actually being searched for because they were doing illegal things. If you recall, they were doing illegal things. They received pretty much that Nobel Peace Prize, and then they wanted to branch off and do other things, but they weren't allowed. So they went to a far off galaxy in the outskirts to perform their experiments. And so the Instigator, Zamina, Deathtude, they are pretty much out. They're rogue scientists. And they were finally found. At least the Instigator was. The Instigator, he locked Zamina's soul somewhere. But the ship was attacked by space pirates, and they pretty much chased him into his lab, and he evacuated on his actual personal ship, which was attached to the big ship where he was running the experiment, operating the tank from. He flees. He crashes onto he flees into the tank. That's the only place he could go. And they follow him. But he crashes into the city. He's shot down actually by Anarchy, because by then this is somewhere in the beginning of the 77th cycle. He had just restarted the tank. So Anarchy's already down there pretty much in power. He still has his abilities. It's still the same Anarchy. He just had his memories fucked with, like everyone does. And the Instigator removed the memory that he had of him. R-Type only knew of the Servi Dei, but everything about the Emerald Prophecy and the Instigator, all that was removed. So the Instigator figured if he ever needed him to know, he could just bring his memories back. It's nothing. So he gets shot down. Anarchy was so on top of things that the Instigator shot down. He crashes, and before the Instigator could even press that button to give the Anarchy his memories back, to call off all these androids, it's destroyed, or it's captured. The remote is captured by one of Anarchy's androids. A tractor beam hits it, takes it right out of his hand. He wasn't even able to restore Anarchy's memories, and he's captured. We also, in one of the latest episodes of the last season, Myra was captured by Anarchy as well. So Myra and the Instigator are both captured, being tortured, and having their abilities. Myra was having her abilities reverse engineered. The Instigator was just being tortured and having his mind probed of all his memories, because the Anarchy knew he had a lot of knowledge. So he's going through his mind, but he knows but he has to be very delicate. It's a lot of information to process. But Anarchy has all his top androids on it. His technology is Oracle, very, very fast. For anyone else, this would have been impossible. Like mind probing the Instigator's mind. Instigator had a lot. Anarchy had a lot of resources and power, like the best kind of power, technological data processing power. So he's going through his mind, but he's going slow, decade by decade, bang, bang, bang. Anarchy receives, he's notified that he has a visitor, and we are introduced to Mistress Scorn, Mistress Sheila Scorn. She is one of the entities who chased the Instigator out of the lab and onto the planet. She and another person that we saw with her, it was a wolfman wearing space armor, pretty much. Wearing space armor, and he had two swords, and they came onto they busted it. He broke through the Instigator's lab looking for the Instigator, but he was with her. So these are two of the space pirates that come into the mix, and they are obviously after the Instigator. So the Mistress Scorn, who is this really elegant looking woman, seasoned woman of a certain age. She has multiple eyes, spider-like eyes, some spider-like features. Like her clothes are like Victorian, but she even has kind of, I guess you would say, like a natural carapace. Some kind of insect-like armor that looks like clothes. Anyway, and then really nice big, elegant Victorian dress. And she appears tall because she has she has 8 legs under that dress. So she can get real tall, get real short. When she's walking around looking like a normal person, she has a bunch of legs under her dress. Man, Mr. Scorn is, if there's any character that I can see really weaving a web, pun intended, weak pun intended, it's her. Mr. Scorn, spider-like physiology, appears slim and graceful. Black exoskeleton, Victorian dress covering 6 lower spider legs, human torso. Upper legs appear as humanoid arms with functioning hands. Porcelain skin on face and neck with 8 small spider-like eyes up the forehead, aiding aim, venomous bite, and humanoid canines. Flowing black hair, total height 8 feet tall. You can see her character sheet. I don't want to go into that because I haven't really had a chance to. We haven't really seen Mr. Scorn yet, but we do know that she's very diplomatic. Obviously, if she's coming to speak with Anarchy, so she comes to talk to Anarchy, and what she wants from Anarchy is the Instigator, but she tells Anarchy that he can have him as long as he needs to do whatever he needs, but she does want to leave with him. And she offers him, she tells him about the galaxy expands. There's so much more out there. Anarchy was learning that. He was learning that. She offered him, pretty much contacts and resources, and she would offer to even be an ambassador for him, because she pulls strings in all of the universe. She even showed him, all that was out there on some kind of virtual manifesto. And we learned that Mistress Sheila Scorn is a very, very powerful person. And her diplomacy is probably why. She comes into probably one of the most powerful rulers on this planet, right to his crib. She teleports in, and zoop, she can teleport. Teleports in, and she's like, Anarchy's thinking about it. What? We learned that the Instigator has a brother who is a bodiless spirit. We learn that the Instigator has a brother, probably one of the most... Have you seen this character? Go to his character page, the Facilitator. The Facilitator is the Instigator's brother who, in an experiment to become a lich like his older brother, it didn't turn out right, and he ended up without a physical body. So he is bodiless, and he can possess people. He can possess people. So he's on the ship. He escapes the urn that he was inside of on some genie shit. I guess he was sleeping. He was on the urn, and he gets out, and he takes over the only there's no living people on this in Sector 12. It's all androids. So the player of the Facilitator sent in what his goal was, and his goal was to possess and break everyone out. But he says he can only he can push his way into a body that is not in use. So I took this as, if a body that's not in use is a dead body, and a body that is in use is a body with a soul in it. So I'm assuming he's like a soul, or acts as a soul, since the body can't be in use. So there's no living creatures in Sector 12 except Omega Supreme. The last time we saw Omega Supreme, he was held captive here, just like Myra and the Instigator. And that's the last time we saw Omega Supreme. So that is why the Facilitator had to use that body to traverse the halls of Sector 12 to free Myra. So Myra's cell is open. She is met with the Omega Supreme's decaying body. And the Facilitator invigorates her with an illusion spell that allows her and her body to ignore the pain and feel like a million Bizquirks. Bizquirks is money in Gamma Haven. It was created through a lore contest. Bizquirks is the money, like the common credits, the common currency, whereas a digital form of that currency are Zarkons. Zarkons is the digital currency of is quirks. But anyway, so she was, he then whispered in her, he then told her something, and we couldn't hear it, but we later find out that he has a plan to break out all of them, including, especially the instigator. So Anarchy 12 is then made privy. So Anarchy is told that there's a jailbreak because Myra was able to use her mist that stole the skills from Anarchy, not the mutation, the skills to operate his base, and unlocked all the cells to every alpha mutant that Anarchy had caught and had enslaved. And that frees an entire, pretty much, squad of alpha G types that survived the crazy battle royale from last season. So these are top tier G types. However, they're kind of crazy. They've been through some hell. They're not all there, and you see that when they all break out and try to escape, led by Smart Marta, who is kind of nutty. Probably was always kind of nutty. Yeah, so she's leading a whole bunch of alpha G types. They're going crazy. There's this one dude with a blood scythe who's going nuts. He takes off the head of one of them, and Marta, and he's frozen with ice, and then Marta breaks him down. So then she leads, everyone else to break out of this hellish Sector 12 prison, and that's when they encounter Anarchy 12, who told Mr. Scorn he'd be back. He had to take care of some business. So the player of Anarchy 12 wanted to give his new set of androids, the Peacekeepers, a test run. And so we saw a little bit of that when they were facing off against the G-types escaping. He goes and he squares off with Smart Marta, who has a flying G-type take her up there, and she goes after him. But he makes short work of Smart Marta. Really, really short work of Smart Marta. And Smart Marta's, she's very powerful. We saw Smart Marta go go toe to toe with R-Type X in the Haven Strongest tournament, where obviously R-Type was playing. But she was outputting some amazing damage. She was very skilled. She took, just leading up to the fights prior to the finals, she was taking her opponents out like it was nothing. And this is our first time seeing her fight again against Anarchy, but Anarchy is not a fighter. He doesn't have to fight you. And we see what happens to fighters when they approach him. So he unleashes the Peacekeepers on the rest of them, and the Peacekeepers are, Anarchy has themes with his androids, whether it be a timepiece, fiction, nonfiction. He has themes with his, and he had a Western theme with these set of androids. So they completely pick apart the G types. You have the Desperado, who has 4 arms, holds 2 revolvers, has 2 arms holding the other 2 arms under his cloak with 2 katanas. Then you have the priest, which he kind of looked like a pilgrim But he could generate shields, for the others. He was kind of like, he was their support. He was hooked up to that Oracle technology, and his eyes were looking like darting around, like freaky shit. And then you had the outlaw, who was he just had a really powerful revolver. He was probably had the best aim out of all of them. He was super crazy with that thing. Oh, and then there was the Apache, an android reminiscent of a Native American Indian from back during those times. And he had laser weaponry. He had laser weaponry, and he was taking out flying dude, and he shot one with an arrow, pulled the other arrow out. Like he was like the dude from Assassin's Creed. There's another member of that set that we see later, the bartender. He got dirted by the instigator. So between all of them, they just completely overwhelm and just destroy all of the G-types so efficiently. I mean, if you remember the King's Hand, the King's Hand were, the theme of them were playing cards. Just think of how efficient they were at what they were designed to do. And then you have this Western theme. You got revolvers, and then you have a more I want to say DPS. And the Apache and the rest provide DPS, but from a range. And then you have the support. It's the perfect setup. So they decimate them. They were unorganized at that. So Myra frees the instigator. He had his Anarchy probably learned of his magic ability and started nullifying his brain, his mind. So he had all that unclouded when he landed. He was free from everything, and we see a scene where the instigator is looking at his hands as if to get Myra. Remember, this is Myra from the previous cycle. She didn't get erased because she was captured by Sector, and she was stored in Sector 12, which was not erased. And she still has the knowledge of Takena that she stole from the cultists. That's why Anarchy 12 thought she was either a Servi Dei cultist or a gate agent, because she was also a G-type with her mist ability. So he's like, that's why he hung her up. He couldn't tell if she was a G-type or he was leaning towards, because only the cultists know Takena, but none of the cultists are G-types. The cultists are just used to Takena magic. So all the Servi Dei, none of them are G-types. They're just cultists with magic. All that tentacle shit that's dark Takena magic. That was created by the player Makai Funichi. He actually created Takena, the name of it. Something else, I don't remember. So the instigator has his magic supremacy back. The instigator is a master of practically all forms of magic spells and rituals, possessing an unrivaled understanding of all things magic and nearly infinite arsenal of magic items, machines, undead golems, and other stranger minions, along with a certain stronghold. So y'all remember my rule on abilities, right? As long it's, the more specific you are, the better. I see what he's going for, and that's why it's called magic supremacy. So remember, the rules are, if you can somehow wrap it up with a nice bow on it like that, like he's obviously a mage. He just said it more detailed. And you are what you can do everything under the umbrella of what you're saying. So he just didn't limit himself. He's just saying, I'm a mage. Like, give me all that mage shit. Whereas you have some characters who might get a bit more detailed. But remember, the more specific you are, that will outweigh a person if you're going against someone who is that, but also some other things. Because I consider you more specialized and therefore more refined, and therefore having the advantage. If it ever came down to the nitty gritty, I take in consideration of everything. So and he's a master of science. That's like one of the craziest characters. He's a lich with magic supremacy. That shit sounds legendary. And a master of science. The instigator has an understanding of technology and science well in advance of any previously recorded individual or group, including the Green Gods and Anarchy 12, and has demonstrated the superior knowledge by science, magic, and lichdom is more of a utility ability. It's more of a utility. It's something that just is something, and that could be a lot of things. It doesn't even have to do with you sometimes. A utility ability is something I consider to be more of a detail. He's a lich, and that comes with things. I'm cool with that. Again, as long as it's tied up in a nice little knot and it's not just everywhere. So anyway, Myra still has the Takena. She's like, there's nothing, Takena is a magic that draws from the spirit. And they're like, these are all androids, so, our reserves are what they are, and that's depleted because they've been pretty much, malnourished spiritually, and they're out of practice. And he's like, he's fine because he knows what she's capable of. The instigator knows that she can what she does, and she doesn't know who he is, who he really is. And he's like laughing at the fact that she said Artakena. That's just one category of magic to the instigator. Magic supremacy is just that. He's like, I don't need Takena. Watch out. The player just has a picture of his character that he submitted, and I want to see this. I gotta see this. I'm hoping he drew it. Shiro on the check-in. So I pictured him being really, really, really laid back, calm, smooth. This is nothing. I'm getting out of here. Get me the fuck. I'm out. I'm getting out of here. Watch out. I'm getting out of here. Watch out. Watch out. Watch out. Watch out. Let's get out. Let's get out. Yo, man. Yo, shout outs to Saucy, man, aka Shiro. He just said something that really, really motivated me and inspired me, man. Yo, thank you for your support, Saucy, man. Salute to you. Wow. Shiro. I had to hold back. That's too much. That's too much. I could have went hard. You know I could have went hard. Everybody who's been watching this shit knows I could have gone hard with a motherfucker like Shiro Aoi. Did you see his character page? Shiro. Yo, I can't wait for this next episode. I'm not gonna shoot big like I did for that drone. I just had to set the stage, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go hard. Small little drones. Bow, 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 bow. I might make a couple episodes off of just your character. I'm just gonna make it tight. It's gonna make it hot. It's gonna make it bow, 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 bow. Shiro. Anyway. So he's using really, really efficient, just raw magic, just efficient, just raw, just that old shit. You know what I mean? Like fire. That's it. Just fire-aga. Not all that fancy fire-aga. All that stuff you see in anime. No, this is fire-aga. This is Thundaga. This is Thundara. This is Blazara. This is Blazaga. Okay? Frog. Flare. Holy. Demi. Gravaja. Yo. Jito just showed me a picture of the universe that contains Kothane, Latchards, Kothane, Davil, Atropreg, and Latch. Kothane, Davil, Atropreg, Latch. And I think he rendered that. Yo, Jito, man, you do the 3D stuff, man. That's just. Think of all the things you could do with that. GJ Toe. When I used to dabble with 3D modeling, I used to always love how shiny like shit looked. You made like a marble, use like a marble, like the textures were shiny. I always thought that was cool. My first 3D model that I made was a creature, like a thing, and it had a neck, and it had an eyeball, and it had another like a scythe. It was a creature, and then out of it came like a scythe. It had a scythe. It had an eyeball and a scythe. It was twisted. And it was in a pool of blood, and like the texture I used was like flesh and guts, and the light was coming down on it, so it's shining on the pool of blood. And then I animated my thing to swivel around and pick up a cube, stab into the cube, pick it up, turn it like a crane, and then throw it down and then slice it in half. He's got like the universe. the planets, I mean. So he breaks through, gets to his ship. Myra learns how to drive the ship. They get out of there. But before he leaves, he drops a clone of himself, a Takena golem. Because he can make these life forms for his brother to possess and leave a message. So remember, the body dropped to the floor after it told Myra what to do. He went to go wait for a new body. And that was the body that the instigator made for him. And the player submitted this, that he just wanted to leave a message. Leave a message. So he possesses the body and he starts talking shit to, there's a scene where he's talking greasy to Anarchy 12 and Mr. Scorn. And Mr. Scorn is like, she already knew what this was, because apparently this is a reoccurring thing. And he's very hard to capture. She said, unless you have something that can capture souls or something like that. And she's like, this is the facilitator. And the facilitator helps his brother, the instigator, carry out a lot of the atrocities. So he says he's talking to Anarchy and Mr. Scorn, but before he could really even leave the message, Anarchy 12 uses Oracle. And first off, Anarchy 12's suit received an upgrade some time ago. When he got the alien technology keyword and attached it to his tech and robotics, and he has a suit that is now what his advanced tech was, but it now uses Takena technology, which is why it's green and has that universe galaxy aesthetic to it. And what that is able to do is it utilizes warp technology, because they mastered that. The first time we see a green god was when it was warping, all around. So his suit is he uses the Oracle technology to produce and calculate what it needs to overcome its situation. And then his technology, his Sector 12, his fortress, builds that technology and then uses the alien technology to warp it onto his suit. So it's like, bow, bow. What do I need? It's built and instantly warped onto his suit using warp technology and advanced technology. Advanced technology and hardware to design it and build it, warp technology to get it into his hands ASAP, which is almost instantly, because these are computers we're talking about. And he had something in his inventory that could produce just that. Oracle was like, this can be used to take care of this, what she describes as something that possesses bodies and can only be captured with, something that can capture spirits or souls. And he produces a weapon that fires spectral rounds, and he fucking shoots the facilitator out of the body. Facilitator was not expecting it. He falls to the ground. Because remember, there's a giant hole in the wall where the instigator, at the port where the instigator and Myra left. So he falls to the city. And Anarchy's not really worried about him, honestly. He sends the Wrath Chimera to go capture him. And he's confident the Wrath Chimera is going to capture him. He's not just sending them to play with him. 9 times out of 10, the Wrath Chimera captures its mutant, its G-type. But obviously he gets away, because this was just story. Well, no, he was successful, but the whole him getting shot was, he didn't lose any ranks or anything. He was successful in his mission, but that was just showing that shit's not a game out here. It's just a little tit for tat. So the facilitator, we see flee, being chased by the Wrath Chimera. He would eventually lead that Wrath Chimera into Void Makai and Jeremiah and Looper and Shiro getting it killed. And so the facilitator got away. And the instigator is going to Monster Island, a place that he deems safe. It's a secret hideaway. Him and Myra. And he's actually thinking of making Myra his apprentice. He ponders the combination of her Takena and but he's thinking of maybe teaching her some things. But they flee and they get to Monster Island. And that's where we learn that Lord Bavrin, who is someone who usurped the Servi Dei in the absence of the instigator from the controls. Rasmussen was the general and he assumed leadership while the instigator was gone. He always ruled, but he became the sole leader. But he was decaying. He was going without maintenance. The instigator was not at the controls to sustain Rasmussen. Very old, very powerful Takena user. And so he's decaying. And so he's naturally trying his hardest to get in contact with the instigator, who's not at the tank controls. And so this is a vulnerable point for him. Fenton Miles is another powerful up-and-coming Takena user, cultist, and the mouthpiece of the Servi Dei during these times. He overthrows him, but only we learn that he was actually being manipulated by Lord Bavrin, who is just some person no one has ever even fucking heard of. That's how low he was laying. That's how behind the shadows he was. He worked himself all the way up to the top of the Servi Dei ranks, the ones that hold audience with Rasmussen and the instigator, and manipulated another person to overthrow someone. And he has Fenton Miles in his palm of his hands too. So Lord Bavrinth, they overthrow Rasmussen. Lord Bavrinth comes out and we learn that he did it all. He orchestrated it all, and he convinced the Rasmussen to unplug himself and pretty much kill himself. And he did. Rasmussen is no joke. He is cold. He's almost been dehumanized, because he doesn't even have the face of a human anymore. It's been scratched off of his face. His face has been almost taken off, I forget, by some creature. And he is the most manipulative person in the game probably right now. He's a charismatic leader. He's a master at psychological mannerisms and habits. And just now, during the awakening of Grenfall, his mutation awakens, giving him farsight. Lord Bavrinth has the ability to see the future. He sees the threads of fate entwining everyone and is able to accurately predict the outcomes with 99% accuracy. Combined with his psych mastery and charisma, he's never let anyone know that he can do this. Just the fact that he wrote that's how smart he is, that he doesn't even want people to know he can do that. Why would you tell someone you can do that if you didn't have to? Master at psychological mannerisms and habits. Lord Bavrinth knows how you think. He knows what you would do given certain stimuli. Lord Bavrinth acknowledges the actions of others, but combined with his golden tongue is able to push, prod, guide, beguile, motivate others into thinking they are the ones who came up with the idea, how to execute said idea, and and take credit for that idea. Lord Bayrinth has the golden tongue. He can talk the wings off of a fly, the feathers off of a goose, the color from a sheep. He empowers people to go beyond their limitations in an attempt to make him proud or to ensure they do not get on his bad side. That's and people are curious as to, like, why is he going after the instigator? Like, that seems like the last person anyone would want to go after. Think about what he's capable of. Think about what Bayrinth is capable of. You don't go after the instigator unless you have a fucking plan. That shit's serious. Whatever's going on between the two characters. He goes to Monster Island before the instigator gets there because he saw it. Servi Dei is a faction that looks like it's under new leadership, and the throne is being tested. I can't wait. So the instigator gets away. You know, that was why Mr. Scorn was there to talk to Anarchy. And she dipped. She left. But she gave him his card. So that means a lot of things. Maybe she's saying, you know, I'm sure she's still going to go after him. I don't know. But if he comes across the instigator again, to give her a call. So this sounds like the deal is still on the table. And they didn't totally, you know, they didn't have any issues with each other. So there seems to be there could be a working relationship between Mr. Scorn and Anarchy 12. But Mr. Scorn brings a whole nother aspect to the game. You know, the world is bigger outside of Gamma Haven. The game is based off of a game that I ran called Gamma Universe. So essentially, Gamma Haven is just a city on a planet in a star in a universe in a star system. And there's many star systems with many planets with many cities. Like when I was GMing for the players in Gamma Universe, like there was a whole system. Man, those were good times. There's a whole system that would generate Ivan, what was that software we were using to create tables? We had tables built out, had fucking planets being generated. This shit was procedurally generated. It was like No Man's Sky, but we were playing tabletop. This is little. Like, this is probably so small to Mr. Scorn. Like, all the trials and tribulations on this planet. She's probably been to so many planets with trials and tribulations, and this is just another. She just came to Anarchy's spot, like, this is why I'm here. I can see you don't know nothing about out there, and and I'm sorry to hear that. It's a shame what he's doing to y'all in here. It's a shame to what he's doing to y'all in here. But look, I'm here now. If we can work out something, I can introduce you to everything that's outside of this matrix. You know, actual life. And we can turn your artificial planet into a place, an actual planet. Let people know about you. This is marvelous. All these all these robots, all these androids. You got V2 Brawler, got the King's Hand. The Queen is looking mighty fine. This is amazing, Anarchy. I know a lot of dealers out there. I know this squid guy named Zadstein that could have a field day with this technology. That's a reference to our campaign. Anyway, everything that Tempest is worried about, there might not be no Emerald Prophecy. They're going to be upset because there's nobody at the controls to send anything. The golem, the light has been destroyed by R-Type X. But there's Bayron's prophecy. And Timber still saw death. So if there's no Emerald Prophecy, what is this death that Timber sees? I don't know what's going to happen next. You got to think about Lord Bayronth is above average, and so is the Instigator. So they're both equal in rank. What are they bringing to the table? Facilitator's not with the Instigator. Unless they somehow can come up with something that makes sense as to how he can be. It's up to them. At the end of the day, I gotta make it make sense. So if it's too far of a reach, it might look weird. Something might seem weird. But it's about what they're bringing to the table now. And Lord Bayronth has the entire Servi Dei army. Oh shit. What am I thinking? Yo, Myra Dare, yo. She's a problem too. Alright, look. Anything can happen. Granted, it's just the Instigator and Myra, but first off, the Instigator is a problem. Then Myra? Lord Bayronth, the entire Servi Dei army. Who knows what else is in the Servi Dei has in store, in their ranks. We saw the Wardens, which were created by the Instigator, but they were Servi Dei, built the last. And who's gonna kill the Peacekeepers? Who can beat the Peacekeepers? Like, you gotta beat the Peacekeepers and before you can get to Anarchy. Or do you? Or do you? Just ask me. I don't know.